What is up, you guys? Naesam here, and in this video I'm going to be going over all of the Elemental Shaman Legendaries, the best, the worst, and basically give you like a hierarchy for single target and multiple targets, for anyone out there that's lucky enough to have more than one, I guess. So I actually thought I already made a video like this, but then I realized that my last Legendary video wasn't really like a well-informed one. It was more just kind of me looking at them back in beta or whatever, and someone pointed this out on my stream that I have it all laid out on my written guide, but I didn't have a video on it, so I thought I would go ahead and make one. So without further ado, let's get started. So to start out, if you only have one Legendary, there are pretty much none that aren't worth equipping unless you already have like an 895 super well itemized piece and you get like the neck or something. Even then, like in Mythic progression, you probably want to keep the neck on for any kind of like high damage boss for range DPS. But if you do, like, just so everyone knows what the hierarchy is, I'm going to be going over that anyway. So, for one thing, there are some scaling issues, and I'll go over that after, but from the sims that I got from an 850 eye level shaman, from Ask Mr. Robot, actually, the very best one is Echoes of the Great Sundering, and with more haste, this one actually gets better, due to the fact that every 10% haste you get another Earthquake tick. And the way you're supposed to use this one, is if you get it, is that basically, for pure single target, you're still going to use that Earthquake. It takes precedence over Lightning Bolt. And if you're going to use another Earth Shock, it takes precedence over that because you don't want to proc it twice. So basically, if you're low on Maelstrom, you use it over Lightning Bolt, and if you get a whole bunch of procs in a row or something, then you want to use it just any time before you use Earth Shock. The next best one is basically a tie between the belt and the boots. So there seems to be an issue with the belt. Apparently it's not scaling very well or something because the proc is doing very little damage at high gear levels. Like at low gear levels it was doing like 3 to 4% of anyone's damage, but it seems like at high gear levels it's doing much less than that. I'm not really sure entirely. If you get it, you can kind of try it out and I guess just use it in LFR or something, look at the damage breakdown and see if it did a certain amount of damage or whatever. Either way, if you only have one, still put it on. But if you have more than one, then I would suggest, if you have both of these, I would suggest putting on the boots instead. Especially because the boots have potential to be really, really good. But also, one other thing to note is that if you get the belt, that does not mean you should go Echo of the Elements. It does not mean you should go Ascendance. It does make Ascendance slightly better, but Lightning Rod will still generally be above it outside of very specific kill times. And, well, I guess that's pretty much it, actually. Really fast kill times. And kill times that allow you to use 2 Ascendances right before the boss dies. Whereas the boots, I don't know what I'm talking about. Whereas Lightning Rod is always going to be good for pretty much any kill time. And then the boots are just kind of like you use your normal talent setup. There has been some experimental stuff going on with like Aftershock and stuff, but nothing conclusive. So as far as I can tell right now, you just want to use your normal setup with that. Next on the single target list, may be a little bit surprising, it's actually going to be the pants. You may like be wondering, but why? It doesn't actually give you any damage benefit, while things like the ring that I originally thought were actually going to be the best give you 2% damage for every element you use, which would be a 4% damage overall. But the thing is that for whatever reason, Blizzard took off the main stats on rings, and this one has pretty bad stats on it. Like, you'd still put it on if you had it, just because it does help a little bit, but like the pants gives you so much intellect, almost 2,000 intellect, lots of haste, not that much mastery, and then it also has the heal, which apparently doesn't work half the time. But it's just so much intellect that it's actually better than the ring. Not by a whole lot, but it is still better. And then, while we're on the topic of the ring, the next one is going to be the ring. So, as I briefly went over a second ago, if you do get this ring, you do not want to use Ice, or you don't want to go to Ice Fury or use Frost Shock. If Ice Fury gets buffed in the future, then use it where you would normally use it, but you don't want to use it because you got the ring. You want to use it because it's better for the fight. Using Frost Shock in your rotation will actually be a damage decrease, even with the 2% additional damage for 8 seconds. It's just, Frost Shock just does, like, no damage, is basically what it is. So you just want to use your normal rotation, and Flame Shock Text will always keep the fire one up, Lightning Bolt will always keep the nature one up, and it's basically just like a flat 4% damage increase. Problem is, the stats are pretty mediocre, so, and also rings just don't scale that well. So it's like, it's mediocre at best. And next is going to be Safuza's Secret. Surprisingly. Safuza's Secret and the risk give basically no benefit. If you already have really good wrists, then Safuza's Secret probably be better, but if you already have really good rings, then the wrist is probably going to be better. It's basically coming down to flat stats. Safuza's Secret has very, very good stats for us, but like back at 850, I simmed with Safuza's Secret showing higher on single target, but now that I actually simmed at like 880, my wrists are higher for single target. So it's not really, it's like they're both pretty much, it kind of depends on what you're wearing at the time. Generally, I would probably go with the wrist just because of the extra intellect. But if there's anything in the fight, anything at all that can be CC'd, you want to take advantage of that because 15% haste is pretty good. And that basically sums up all the single target stuff. So for more than one target, we're thinking here like anywhere from 2 to 10 or whatever. More on the lines of like 3 to 5. The new hierarchy is going to be Echoes of the Great Sundering, again on the top. And just so you know how to use this, if it's going to be like a long-term AoE fight, you want to be using Earth Shock. You never want to use Earthquake when it's not procced, basically. You want to use Earth Shock at 100, and you'll end up with the same amount of Earthquake damage, assuming you get a 50% proc rate, as if you just dropped your Earthquake, but you'll also get the Earth Shock damage, so it's going to result in higher overall damage. It's also just like the pants, just not quite as good. It has lots of intellect on it, so that's very helpful. One thing to note is that if you're doing like a mythic dungeon and you need Earthquake down to get like the stuns going, then you probably don't want to use Earth Shock. You probably just want to drop Earthquakes, and then if you get a proc later on, you can like save it for new coming AoE or whatever. Basically what I'm saying is that if trying to get a proc, if fishing for a proc is going to jeopardize anything, then you don't want to do it. Next best, excuse me, next best for AoE is going to be the Wrists. Chain Lightning deals 5% increased damage to each subsequent target. I think that one's pretty self-explanatory. You just do your normal rotation, like get Lightning Rod and everything. Next is going to be Safuza's Secret. So this one's actually like, I'm not experienced enough with Simcraft to actually know how to get it to like proc it, how to get it to CC things. But Safuza's Secret actually may be one of the best AoE legendaries because 15% haste will scale with your Earthquake, and it's actually procced by your Earthquake, so in like Mythic Dungeons, Safuza's Secret's actually really, really powerful. It can, because the Earthquake procs it all the time. Every 30 seconds it's being procced by Earthquake, and then Earthquake's getting additional ticks because of the proc. So it has some really good synergy with LA Shaman, one of the only classes that really gets to take good use out of it. So if you get this one, don't feel too bad like I did. It's actually pretty good for AoE. And the only other one that really is worth noting for AoE, since you're never really using Lava Burst during AoE, you're never really using Earth Shock during AoE, this one gives minor benefit during AoE, but not really worth noting, honestly. It's just the nature damage. It's the Pants, because of so much intellect and lots of haste. Haste is by far your best stat for AoE, and intellect is obviously going to be your best stat overall. So the Pants are actually pretty good for AoE as well. So if you have to pick between the everything but the two I mentioned before for AoE, then definitely want to pick the Pants. And I think it's pretty obvious that the neck is worst for everything. So the next question that I'm sure, well, I already know I have been getting, is that basically people have been asking, are there any two legendaries that go really well together, or is there anything that, if you could choose, basically if you could choose two legendaries to put together, what would you choose? And if anyone is so incredibly lucky that they have more than two legendaries and they also happen to have the two best and slot legendaries, I would definitely suggest going with Echoes of the Great Sundering and the Seaver's Blood Pact. The constant refresh on Earth Shock, it has like insane synergy with the Earthquake Totem buff, which it still says Earthquake Totem, even though it's actually just Earthquake now. I just noticed that. But basically, like, if you got these two, for one thing, you're insanely lucky. Congratulations. And secondly, if you get an Earth Shock proc, or a refund, that also procs the Earthquake, you want to use the Earthquake first, and then use Earth Shock afterwards, and you may be able to just get like a constant flow going. It could be absolutely insane with the right RNG. It does add a lot of RNG to your rotation, but the other legendaries really aren't that amazing. So definitely go with these two if you do have both of them and you have to choose. So outside of those two, nothing else really has notable synergy. So you just kind of want to go with the hierarchy. Whoa, hierarchy already listed, and outside of that, there is no other legendaries to really go over. There's one little thing I wanted to say is that this thing kind of sucks for Ellie, and I really hope they replaced it with Hero Ring. that is all. So, thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully it's not too late. I completely forgot I hadn't made this video already. So, sorry for the huge delay on this, but hopefully people aren't already having like 4 legendaries in need of the video. So, thanks for watching. Hopefully you guys learned something, and I'll see you guys next time.